Hello and welcome to Bespoke Unit. I'm CP and in this video I'm reviewing Picon Biere. As per usual, this review is conducted using the Bespoke Unit Liquor Formula, a quantifiable review matrix that you can either use at home for your own reviews, or if you don't have time to watch the entirety of this video, check out the final written review in the description below where you'll see the PDF version of this very formula, which will give you a quick overview of the liquor and its characteristics. In 1837, Gaétan Picon was stationed in Algeria when he served as part of the French army. It is there he invented Picon, which I believe he called at the time African Amer. He continued to produce it in Algeria, and in 1862 it was presented at the London Universal Exhibition, albeit without his knowledge. It ended up being extremely successful. It won a bronze award, and in 1872, Gaétan eventually returned to France where he started its production in Marseille. The concoction itself is actually quite an interesting representation of the period and the certain taste that they had at the time. He combined gentian, which is a drink based off a specific grass root, which is quite popular in central France, with quinquina, which is a fortified wine with heavy doses of quinoa root, which was served to French soldiers and officers who were abroad to combat against malaria. Then, to add some roundness to the whole bouquet, sugar, syrup and caramel are then added to the final drink. These ingredients are steeped in orange peels. It's probably distilled again at some point. It used to be much stronger. Today it's only at 18%. I believe it's still produced in Marseille, and technically speaking, it is a bitter. Whether it still actually uses quinquina, which is the fortified wine, with grain alcohol, that I'm not so sure. Interestingly, I hear that Picon is also very popular in the USA. Places like Idaho tend to cherish it, although it can be very, very hard to find. So they've created their own alternatives, but it's very popular in a Picon punch, which is with brandy and a twist of lemon. But we'll get to that in the cocktails later. Let's actually get on with the review itself. So first of all, taking a look at the robe, we have a very dark, almost molasses colored syrupy liquid. It has quite a haziness about it, but there you do get some nice reflections of light through the glass. The residue, if you were to do a quick test, it's going to be very sticky because of the caramel, the sugar syrup, and various additives like that. It does actually have some decent legs on it though. You get some, they're a little bit slow, but they are quite thin. And then in terms of the depth, you do have a nice bit of depth in the color here. So now let's take a look at the nose. It's a very warming, quite oily again. You're going to get aromas of orange peel. Some of the red wine is quite vinous, and some allspice that just adds a little prickliness to the overall bouquet. It's quite rich. It's not overly intense. You're going to get some diversity of notes. There are going to be some nuances here, but it's not too complex either. Next, we're going to do the palate. Let's give this a sip. You know, normally Picon Biere, as the name suggests, is enjoyed like a shandy. You're going to have a little dash of Picon, and then it's going to be topped up with a Pilsner or a Blonde Bière. And, well, I'm going to be doing it a little bit differently so we can actually get all of the flavors. Overall, a bitter primary flavor. Mouthfeel very oily, much like the nose was hinting. We have an opening of orange peel, the Venus red wine, as I mentioned earlier. Although there probably isn't any wine there, but you do get quite a thick black fruitiness, and then a zesty hint of lemon. Moving on to the heart, you're going to get some of the spiciness. There's a bit of anise, there's some nutmeg, but you're starting to get the bitterness now of the grapefruit. But as you get to the finish, that is where the bitterness really crescendos and takes its place right in the center of the palate. You're going to get some gentian, you're going to get some quinine, and then there's some caramel just there to soften it and round it off, to give it a pleasant finish that just lingers on the palate. It's not too complex, it's very approachable. If you don't like bitter flavors like black coffee, this may not be for you, but then again, when paired with beer, that really does add some substance to like a very refreshing blonde beer. The texture is very smooth, it's heavy on the palate. The maturity, well, you're not going to expect much maturity here, but you do feel like there has been time taken to produce it. There is some depth in the flavor. The harmony is balanced. You have nice stimulation. Even if it's dominated by some sweetness and some bitterness, you do get some savory and sour elements that really give you a full palate and a full experience. The linger, it does linger there for a while. I'm still getting some of the quinine in the back of the throat. And then the versatility. This isn't that versatile as a drink. As you'll see in the cocktails, there's only about 3 or 4 ways that you can use it, but it gives you lots of opportunities to experiment and find new ways. So next we're going to talk about the experience. So the bottle, it's very classic. I mean, as you can see, the label is stuck on. It's wrinkled, it's creased. It's not a big deal. You have Picon written at the bottom, screw cap top, just a normal screw cap. And it does have its prizes here. So Paris 1867, Paris 1889, Anvers 1885, etc., etc., etc. It was quite an award-winning beverage, it seems. However, nothing from the 20th century. Maybe they just stopped counting by then. It's not an incredibly impressive bottle. It does look like it's made on a little bit of a budget, but then again, it's not very expensive and it's no big deal. Packaging, there is none. In terms of value, I hear it's very hard to find in the USA, despite there being some demand, especially in certain states where there is an old Basque or French presence. You'd probably be looking at about 25 bucks. For a bottle like this. This is a litre bottle, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, it's a litre bottle. In France, you can pick this up for just about 10 euros. It's quite affordable, and it does last a while since you only use a little bit with your beer. And now, in terms of occasion, this isn't something that you have formally. It's really not that kind of drink. This is enjoyed as part of an aperitif. It is a very, very casual drink that you have just for some refreshment. It's not something that you'd see at a black tie affair. Occasionally though, some families do enjoy it in family dinners as a digestif, and they'll have it neat. At least that has been the case with some of my family in France. Which I was quite surprised about, but it's quite common practice, and that really helped me develop a taste for it, and I do enjoy it very much. It does remind me of a sort of Sunday afternoon after a large lunch. So next is cocktails and pairings, and this isn't scored. This is just on the bottom right-hand corner of the formula. It's just a thought exercise to give you a couple of ideas how you can enjoy it. So first of all, like I mentioned on several occasions, a Picon Biere is going to be really the ultimate way of enjoying this. There is another version called Picon Amer, and that is made for mixing in cocktails. Nevertheless, Picon Biere can be done as well. So for example, the Picon Punch is quite popular in some parts of the USA. It's a highball cocktail that consists of some Amaro liqueur, or traditionally Picon Biere, soda water, grenadine, a splash of lemon, and a bit of brandy. Otherwise, I've been thinking that you could probably use this as part of a Negroni. I've heard it being referred to as a French Negroni, so in that case you'd also be using Armagnac or Cognac instead. However, I'm not sure whether Picon is used normally in that recipe to replace the Campari. Nevertheless, it is a great option, and it's a way that you could really start to experiment and see what this kind of drink can really produce in differences of flavor. And then when it comes to pairings, so you could consider sort of a game stew. You could even cook with it if you wanted, a filet mignon, but really it's an aperitif, so I'd say nuts, potato chips, things like that. And then of course at Bespoke Unit, we're very fond of cigars, and I have a couple of suggestions. So first of all, I'd say something like a Plasencia Alma del Fuego. This is a very full-bodied, spicy cigar. It's a bit daring to have with a drink like this. Perhaps if you're going to have it with a beer, then you could probably go for something a little less full-bodied. So for example, an Oliva Siri V Milanio. However, if you want to go and try this neat, perhaps consider something spicy, full-bodied and full of flavor, and the two drinks will be able to complement and contrast each other just the way you want to. Overall, Picon Biere is not that well known outside of France, although it does have a loyal following from Francophiles and people with French heritage in their family. It is a fascinating drink that it deserves a lot more attention, perhaps even just as much attention as maybe Campari and Aperol. Given that it is quite a comparative drink, it does offer slightly similar experience, and it can be used in just the same ways as an interesting and very citrus alternative. Anyway, that's all from me today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and leave a comment if you have any questions about Picon, or if you have any comments and experiences that you wish to share. Also, if you have any requests for future videos, don't hesitate to let us know. Until our next video, why don't you head to bespokeunit.com/spirits and you can see our vast resources on different types of liquor. Alternatively, go to bespokeunit.com and see all the other lifestyle subjects that we cover. I'm sure that there'll be something that you will love.